you go.
Okay, so now what I'm going to do is hey there, Judy and her husband. I'm going to I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to pull up some slides, share. There. This is what we're here to talk about, ladies and gentlemen in the background and babies who future messengers for good. We're going to talk about how to podcast guest for good and profit. Before we begin, I want you to start believing in yourself in a whole new way. I want you to set the intention that your work deserves a much wider audience and your business is worthy of sales beyond expectations, and that the time for you to share your message is right now. Because if we've learned anything over the last 14 months or so, is that someday is not a day on the calendar. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. If we are building our businesses for good and profit, it is not an optional thing to be visible. It is a business imperative. And if you are not visible, you're hiding under a bushel basket, and there could be hundreds or thousands or millions of people that could benefit from your message, your mission, your point of view, your call to action, that will never hear you unless you decide to make visibility a high priority. I want you to believe and behave as if the most important person is going to call you tomorrow, because when you learn to show up in this manner, you know what? Sometimes the most important person does call you tomorrow. And when you're ready for opportunity before it knocks, you glide through those doors, get behind the velvet rope, and all of a sudden really great things start to happen. And I find that intoxicating. I find that empowering. I find that very exciting. And I hope that you do too. A personal story about me. I grew up in Southern California, in the shadow of Hollywood, California, because my dad was an actor and he was on TV, movies, commercials. And if you ran into him in the grocery store, you'd probably know who he was. He was somewhat famous, but for the most part, he was unemployed most of the time. And as a kid growing up in status conscious Southern California, where the haves and the have nots were very obvious, most of the time I felt like a have not. All the other kids at school had pretty clothes and went to school in their fancy cars. And I was wearing homemade clothes, and we were clipping coupons most of the time because we never knew when the next meal was going to come from, because we never knew when my dad was going to get a job. Because when you're a performer or an artist, you go on auditions. And even if you're brilliant and you deliver the lines perfectly, if the casting director doesn't say you got the part, well, you don't get the part. And that means that we're at home disempowered to do anything about it. And I think growing up in that scenario, it really brought me to a place of wanting to have control over my economic destiny. I didn't want to have anyone else give me permission to make a living. If I want to speak more, I'm going to speak more. And that's just the end of that story. So I find this content, it's very personal, it's very powerful, and it can be game changing. Because even during a pandemic, no matter what challenges you might have faced, right around last March, when the whole thing kind of fell apart, we're all stuck at home. But I wasn't going to let COVID-19 take me down. I was going to make sure that I was going to speak up on podcasts, broadcasts, virtual stages, and my own platform, so that if I wanted to make invitations to people that could benefit from how I would help, there was nothing to stop me. And as a result of that, I was able to attract leads, clients, connections, collaborations, and cash in my business, which is really a tremendous blessing, given what some other people have been tending to that might not have been quite so favorable. You also have the power to do this from your own home and share your own message and create that same level of empowerment. If you want to speak more, you speak more. So before we get into the nitty gritty, I just want to sort of take a quick poll, and maybe we can use the chat function of the thing. But how many people, and we can do this by show of hands as well, since it's a small group. Who here is casually interested in podcast guesting and is considering whether or not it could be useful to them? That would be answer number one. Answer number two is, this has no application in my business, but I'm happy to be here to see what I could learn. And the third is, I am so serious about raising my voice and making my impact. I have a feeling this is my golden ticket. 3 would be my answer. Just go ahead and post in the chat. And then maybe one of you can let me know what the vote is, so I don't have to switch slides. But if anyone's willing to tell me how it came out, I'd be love to know. Jennifer, can you help out? I can't hear you, Jennifer. You're muted.
Yeah, being very polite, muted myself. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ones and a 2, and then 3. Betty's 3 with question mark, and then we've got 3. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 threes, 5 threes.
5 threes. So 5 people think that this could be their golden ticket and they're super excited. And some are not at all sure, and that's okay. But it's good to know, because I hope I open your eyes while we're here tonight so you can get some new excitement about this whole new strategy that might not have been one you've considered before. I promise you today, I'm just moving this up, that you're going to learn the opportunity you have to speak up on podcasts that have embedded listeners that are already interested in what you want to say and hear. I'm going to share with you the value of being media ready, media savvy, and on message so that you can rock the mic every time you speak up. I'm also going to teach you a couple ways you can quickly meet podcast guests, podcast hosts that are looking for guests, even if you're new to the game. And I'm also going to share the one thing that you might not have considered that can make the biggest difference of all, so that when you do get an opportunity to speak up, you can take a one-night stand and turn it into a long-term relationship. All right. If you want to speak more, what do? You speak more. There's 3 ways to speak up. You can speak to your own community. This can be to a community like Jennifer owns this group. She can speak up to this community whenever she has a meeting. If you have a Facebook group that you lead, you can speak up once or twice a week in your own Facebook community. If you have a Facebook business page, you can go live with Be Live TV or Facebook Live and go live to everyone who's following you on Facebook. You can deliver a message consistently, tenaciously, and with heart and smarts, and attract people who are interested in what you have to say and what you next want people to do as a result of hearing your message. You can also speak on other people's audiences. I am lucky enough to be invited to speak to all of you because Debbie Page and Jennifer Major are friends, and Jennifer says, who do you know that could be a speaker? And Debbie recommended me, and voila, here I am. There are people that lead masterminds. There are people that lead all kinds of interesting groups that are looking for speakers. You can speak up on all of those stages if you just position yourself properly as someone who has value to add in service to that audience. And of course, you can speak up on the podcasts that are right for your message. If you see each of these little balls as a leg on a 3-legged stool, you can imagine that the stability of this can be very powerful, because you can speak up as often as you like in all these different manners. And if you have a message that is right for the audience and that serves them in a powerful way, what do you know? You get the opportunity to extend an invitation or invite people to download a free gift or ask for a place in your free membership group. And what do you know? You've got a new fan, a new follower, a new champion that could be nurtured to become a client. I want you to believe and behave as if those opportunities are yours right this very minute. And that means getting ready for them so that you can step through the doors with grace and ease. And that means that you stop winging it and that you get ready to play big and that you believe and behave as if this outcome is already yours. because so many people that I run across say, yeah, I've been meaning to get my speaker sheet done. I've been meaning to get my media one sheet done. I've been meaning to do a whole bunch of things that I've not yet done. And when you get the opportunity or the invitation, you're kind of dead on arrival because the host is thinking, why don't you have your act together? I might ask Jennifer or the other lovely woman, Betty, you're looking for speakers that can be part of your organization and contribute value to your membership. What's it like for you when a speaker says, I'm honored to be asked. As a matter of fact, here's everything. Here's the write-up of my subject title, my 3 takeaway points. Here's my headshot. Here's the way I like to be introduced. Is there anything more I can do to make this a wonderful experience for you? When you have a speaker come at you like that, what's your reaction? I'd love to hear your comments on that, Jennifer and Betty.
Oh, definitely. Then I'm not having to chase them down to get all the stuff. If they can just send me their speaker info right away, then I can go ahead and get it all on the website and get it out to Lisa so she can send it out. So yeah, that's great.
And is that your experience too, Betty?
Oh, it's rare. Really rare. I can hardly even get a bio from them, let alone what they're going to talk about and what kind of presentation equipment they're going to need, whether or not they're using a PowerPoint or whatever. So no, it's really rare.
Well, what if, thank you, Betty, and thank you, Jennifer. What if everybody that's looking for a speaking slot could take the opportunity to think about what it's like to be the speaker selector or the podcast host that's looking for guests? If you could decide to become everybody's favorite speaker, everybody's favorite guest, everybody's most prepared of service contributor, it won't be rare anymore. It will be a refreshing new trend that we are starting together, because that has been the secret sauce for my star on the rise, by being the favorite, the one that was ready to go, that was ready to be a pleasure in every way, that was ready to go to the show before I was even, entitled to it. You'll make friends. When people say, boy, you were such a great guest, who else do you know? And are they like you? Because people don't want to have to scramble and chase cats and try to follow up 14 times about, well, what was your topic and what are you going to talk about and what's in it for my audience? Make it easy for the host and you'll be the host's favorite. And hosts have other friends who book speakers, and what do you know? They'll say what a dreamboat you were, and you'll get invited to do it again and again and again. Amen. And does anybody on this call want some of that? Yes? Mm-hmm. Let's hear amen.
Amen.
We're going to church preparation tonight. I want you to know that if you take control of your destiny by getting ready for opportunity before it knocks, you will have those opportunities. And once the word gets out about not only how ready you were, but how terrific you were when you got a chance to deliver, the thing that you're not counting on, that's the most intoxicating part of it, is that people that are listening have shows of their own. They have organizations that need speakers. They have people they know in high places that are looking for people just like you. And all of a sudden, one podcast spot, one evening networking session, one keynote at a time, you start getting spin-off engagements, one right after the other. And pretty soon you've got 20, 30, 40 speaking gigs delivering your message in a way that only you can. And oh, by the way, when you get to deliver your call to action, even if you're not allowed to sell, guess what? People are running and not walking in your direction to say, I want to know more about that. I want to know more about you. I want to possibly have you solve my most urgent problems. When can we talk about it? Does anybody want some of that? Yes, that's what I like. So you can see the advantage of it. So now let's get to the really fun part. I know we have a cancer coach, a life coach, a website designer, a Legal Shield representative. You all have your very specific products, services, and programs that you bring to market. So my question to you is, what is your favorite way to serve, and what do clients wisely invest into to get the benefit? It can be any variety of things. They buy your book, they do a VIP day with you, they do a private mentoring program, we all have something, right?
Mhm.
So now let's play with the math. Okay. What can happen when you're on a podcast or a evening event like this, or speaking up on your own stage? If you have 20 podcast spots in a year and they are with the right audience that's interested in what you have to say and wants to be part of the conversation you want to have, and you deliver great value in your own authentic, inimitable, amazing way, if only one person from that podcast decides to do business with you and your average value of a client or a gig is $5,000, that can turn into a $100,000 stream of revenue. Absolutely can. The beautiful thing about podcasts, as I mentioned earlier, is that if you go on shows that have at least 20 episodes and favorable reviews, the podcast host has already done a good job to build an audience. So when you get on that show and you deliver your message in only the way that you can, there could be hundreds or thousands of people listening in that moment. But that podcast is also evergreen online indefinitely and can be searched by Google and found. So it will work for you again and again and again for as long as it's on iTunes or Spotify or wherever it happens to live. So if only one person per podcast decides that they loved what you said so much that they wanted to have a consultation and you converted them into a client, you can see that this could turn into a real stream of revenue for you without having to leave your house. Now, if you lead a Facebook group, if 20 people, if 20 listeners, if 10 listeners from each show liked what they heard enough that they wanted to join your Facebook group, that could be 200 new members of your Facebook group. And if in your Facebook group you deliver a live show once a week and people learn to love, trust, respect you, and are called to do business with you in some way, well, 3% of any group is willing to buy, eager and willing to buy at any given time. So that could be another 6 people that might be doing business with you. If you have a $5,000 program, it's $30,000. If you have a higher value program, it could be even more. Just whatever it is that people invest to do the thing that you do at your average value per client, do the math and ask yourself, is that something that excites me for the opportunity to spend a little bit of time pitching myself to the right shows? This isn't like paid advertising where you're paying for Facebook leads and Facebook ads and this sort of thing. It's your time that you put forth to pitch yourself to the right shows. So there's no out-of-pocket cost in terms of hard dollars, but there's certainly a favorable upside when you do it well. So why podcasts? As I mentioned, there's 1.8 million on the air. Hosts are looking for experts every day. The active shows have embedded listeners that could be new fans and followers of your work. The shows, as I mentioned, reside online forever, and one good show often leads to others. And here's the cool thing. People that listen to podcasts tend to want to learn more to earn more. And as a result, they do earn more. And best of all, they have the discretion to invest in themselves. So if they're looking for a solution to some deeply seated problem, chances are they can actually afford to invest into themselves to get the solution with you as their able guide. And as I mentioned, there's no cost to you to be on a podcast aside from your time. And you're always invited to take a next step, which brings you leads, which then can exponentiate your impact in that way. So what I want to do over the next few minutes is help you start to get podcast ready so some of these advantages can be yours as soon as possible. Who's excited about doing that?
Oh, yeah.
Great. So you had mentioned that you wanted to know, Betty, what's the technology, right?
Yeah.
So what I want you all to take a look, consider is what some podcasts are audio only and some podcasts are video and audio. So you want to pay attention to what the viewer can see. What do they see behind you? What do they see in terms of lighting to be favorable a favorable reflection of your brand and reputation? And do they have good audio quality? Because if you don't have good audio quality, that's a disservice to the host, it's a disservice to the listener, and most people won't pay attention. And so I want to help you know what to get so that you can. I actually asked a podcast host who's interviewed over 400 guests what microphone he most recommends. And he recommends the Audio Technica ATR 2100X is the best as far as proper quality, versatility, and reasonable pricing. I think it's like $129. If you go to Amazon and you go look for that, you can buy it. I use a Blue Yeti microphone and I like it a lot. Everybody's technical requirements and preferences are different, but there are 2 recommendations that you can consider. A professional quality microphone for the bigger shows is essential. And when you fill out the forms that the host will say to be a guest, the thank you note will often say, if you do not yet have a headset and a professional quality microphone, please reschedule. If you're serious about getting booked on 20 or more podcasts this year, invest in a microphone and a headset and make sure that the background that people see is a favorable reflection of your brand and reputation, and make sure you have lights that help you look as good as you can look given what God gave you to work with. Because getting ready for opportunity really does matter. I want to walk you through 6 steps to being the podcast dream guest. Prepare, position, prioritize, pitch, ping pong, and profit. Being prepared matters perhaps as much as the message. And so invariably, whether you're speaking up on for an organization like this one, or on a podcast, or on a telesummit, or on any other platform, the host is going to want to know what your bio is. And sometimes people really duff it when it comes to their bio. They share everything they've ever done in their life, whether or not it's relevant to what they're talking about tonight. So I want you to think about how you want to be introduced and how you want to position yourself in front of that audience so that they will want to sit up and take notice that you are here and have value to offer. And I want you to put enough proof in your claims so that people will believe you. And I want you to put some personality into it so people will remember you. And so I'm going to model for you one of the bios I use when I'm introduced as a speaker. Get known, get paid mentor, Nancy Juetten. I've got a handle in front of my name. I transform speakers, experts, and authors into sought-after podcast guests who speak their way to 6 figures and beyond. If that was the only sentence you got to hear about who I was before I spoke up tonight, would you be interested? Nancy combines her years of public relations agency success, proven online marketing strategies honed since 2009, and velvet boot of accountability to kick clients into an empowering and sustainable gear of performance and profits. Wow. We know what I am. We know who I work with. We know what kind of big result they get as a result. I position myself as someone who's done this for a good long time. And I say it in such a way that you were actually grinning, Betty, when I said velvet boot of accountability.
Velvet boot. Got me there.
You were thinking, okay, like that wasn't blah, blah, blah. That was something that said something that might be meaningful to you. I then position myself further. In addition to being an Amazon #1 best-selling author and consistent content creator, I speak up on 40 or more podcasts and virtual stages each year with my sassy sound bites leading the way. Sassy sound bites. I'm not going to be boring. And I have a visual of my Amazon #1 best-selling workbook, so you can see something visually that lets people know that she's the real thing. And then for those, sometimes you get the opportunity to mention how it is that you make your living. And so I have a Broadcast Your Brilliance bootcamp and a Raise Your Voice, Make Your Impact Inner Circle that are among my favorite ways to serve clients. And if that's interesting to you and you want to learn more, well, what do you know? You've got an email address there that you can follow up and check me out. Let's have a chat, But you want to position yourself in such a way that the audience is saying, wow, I'm really excited to get to learn at the feet of this person's wisdom And I know this is for me, and I know that there's something that I'm going to take away, and it's not just fluff. Okay. So think about how you want to be introduced. If you've got a picture of yourself on a stage looking like you know what you're doing, use it. If you've got a book cover that makes you look cool, use it. If you've been seen, heard, and celebrated in the major and the minor media, go ahead and put those visuals there, because it just makes you have a cool quotient that makes people think that maybe they were really lucky to get you coming to their place today. Now, it could be that you're saying to yourself, oh my gosh, I don't know how to make my bio brilliant. Can you help me out? Can you help me out? What do you know? About a year ago, my book went Amazon, my work preview went Amazon #1 bestseller status. But now I give away the preview as my gift to you. And all you have to do is go to buyboringbio.com and download it. And be sure to check your junk, promo, or spam folders, and you'll get a 27-page preview of all the wow that's packed within this workbook. So if you want to have a bio that is on fire with possibility and wow, well, I've just given you a gift that will help you, and I hope that you will do that, because it's really a good. I do good work. What can I say? Now, the next tool that you need is a media one sheet. And a media one sheet is a one-page document that quickly positions you as an expert that a host would want to have a conversation with. I have an example from my husband of 34 years, Steve Juetten. He's a certified financial planner professional. He quickly says that, he's a fee-only fiduciary financial advisor, which means he doesn't sell products or take commissions. The only people that pay him are his clients. But his bio is very understated. Retirement is simple, but not easy. Get it right and you can be confident. Get it wrong and misery follows. Steve's been guiding clients to retirement success since 2002. He's media savvy and media ready to add value to podcast, broadcast, or blog. What does he like to talk about? Financial lessons inspired by movies, television, and song lyrics. He wrote a blog post about the financial lessons learned at the halls of Downton Abbey and what we can learn from estate planning from the deaths of Michael Jackson, Aretha Franklin, and Prince. He has a way of talking about a somber topic, or some people would say a boring topic, in a way that makes it topical and interesting, which makes him memorable and remarkable and bookable. Here he talks about COVID-19 pandemic financial strategies and tactics, how much is enough, and other urgent questions to answer when you want your money to last as long as you do, and the one mistake to avoid in your retirement plan. There's some intrigue and curiosity in these topics that hosts are very responsive to. It's not like, I'll teach you how to get unstuck. I mean, people talk about that all the time, and the delete key is really easy to come by. Boring, boring. Don't teach me to get unstuck. Teach me an uncommon way to get unstuck that nobody's talked about before. That's so much better than teach me to get unstuck. You see that his email address, his phone number, his website, his social media icons are all easily accessible. And he has showcased some logos of media outlets that have already showcased his expertise, because it's visually very persuasive. And because he's a financial advisor, he does have to have all these disclaimers, which is not something that most other professionals need to have, but this is just what he has to do. But can you see how having a tool like this could be useful? Marika has a question.
Yeah, could you just talk briefly, like, what is the main point, or what is the media sheet supposed to do? Because this is a great example, but like, what is the objective of it?
I will explain. The first P is prepare, and then the second one is position. And now before we can prioritize the shows that we want to be on, we have to decide what kind of conversation we want to start. And a media one sheet basically helps showcase the conversations that you want to have, so that when you present yourself to a host, they can quickly see that you are media ready, media savvy, and on message, that they could feel confident inviting you to be on their program. And I'm going to get into this. I'm going to share an example of a pitch as we move along. So I know this is going to take more shape. So stay with me. Did we just lose a bunch of people? Oh, we still have people. So what's your topic? Do you have one? Is it generic and not the least bit memorable? Or is there a result that people want in the name? You know, I would just sort of defer to Betty and, you know, Jennifer. Like if someone says, I'll talk about whatever you want me to talk about, what sounds good to you? That's a totally different approach than saying, my topic is how to transform your boring bio from wallpaper to wow to attract clients now. Would that resonate for your audience and be of value and contribution? It's a totally different way of approaching it that is of service to the decision maker. So don't go boring and generic, get really specific. And invariably the host is going to ask of a meeting like this, or, you know, what is the audience going to learn? Like my example, the value of being media ready, media savvy, and on message with your media one sheet leading the way. How to quickly meet podcast hosts to be a guest, even if you're brand new to podcast guesting. And the number one consideration you must make before you take your place at the microphone, and it's not what you think. These are my bullet points that hopefully compel people to say, I don't want to just phone in the PowerPoint. I actually want to show up live to be a part of that because that sounds really interesting to me. There's curiosity, there's intrigue, there's urgency, there's specificity. There's something compelling about it that has you thinking to yourself, oh yeah, I want to hear from that person. So when you're putting your media topics together, add some curiosity, some urgency, and some specificity, and see how your own message starts to sizzle a little bit more than it did before. And so you're probably thinking, well, how can you make this easy for me, Nancy? And I've anticipated your needs. This cool template is a free gift and you can download it. You go to getknowngetpaid.com/MOS for Media One Sheet. You're going to receive my Media One Sheet, and you're going to receive a template already formatted where all you have to do is upload your headshot and swap out, you know, put in your bio, put in your topics, put in your contact information, and you will be off to the races. How awesome is that? Yay. And see, I'm allowed to have, financial planners aren't allowed to have praise, but I'm allowed to have praise. And I've had some people with really big names say really nice things about what I do and how I do it. And so what do you know? I dropped some names, because if my name means nothing to somebody, these names will mean something to a lot of people. And that makes my star look a little bit shinier. So you're going to go and download this, getknowngetpaid.com Media One Sheet, MOS, and you're going to do it. And in about a half an hour, if you're serious about getting ready to go, you will be ready to go. Now, if you really want to get serious about this, the getknowngetpaid.com/interview Nancy page is my online media kit. And if you really want to get serious, you're going to want to have yourself or your virtual assistant or whoever helps you with technology create a page like this for yourself. Because if I'm on a lounge chair or in an airport or somewhere on the planet where NPR or somebody important says, will you please be on the show? And what are you going to talk about? And why do we care? I can do a cut, paste, and send this link to any major media outlet, and they will have the backstory about my business, a 50-word bio, a 100-word bio, both written in the third person so I can be easily introduced without the host having to transpose my first person account. They'll also have images of my book, plural, there are 3 of them. They'll also have a headshot they can use for promotional purposes. And what do you know? I even anticipate the questions that they're going to want to ask me by providing 2 sets of questions so that their preparation for our interview can be fast, easy, and complete. If you want to have 20 different shows that you're doing this year, or 40 different shows that you're doing this year or more, you do yourself a huge favor by having all of these assets in one place. Because even if you are asked to fill out a guest submission form, you can simply cut, paste, and go from your own page without having to hunt and peck for all the essential information that any host is going to ask you for. This is a game changer for those who are serious about stepping up to the mic as a steady diet. I am that person. I love podcast guesting. I love speaking. I think I do. I have a good value to add, and I believe in it and show up as though other people can benefit from it right away. And I want you to take that same approach, because how you do anything is how you do everything. If you're a last minute Susie, you're going to be a last minute Susie. If you're going to be ready for opportunity, you're a whole different kettle of wax or kettle of fish. So now you're probably thinking, that was great. What else do you got for us, Nancy? What if I could make it so easy for you to get booked that you could start picking the low-hanging fruit and get booked on a show right away? Would you be excited? Well, your wish is my command. I want you to take time to get visible and respond to opportunities that are waiting for you right this very minute. And here are 3 places to start. These are places on Facebook groups. They're podcast matchmaking sites where hosts and guests are gathering to connect, collaborate, and get booked. It's free to join all of these groups. And I want you to lurk. I want you to learn. And then when you're feeling ready to respond, I want you to respond like a winner. And the more you participate, you'll see that these are not long, drawn out, formal pitches. These are simple responses shared by people of like mind, where they're being gracious and lovely and making it easy for each other to make a connection. My favorite one is podcast guest collaboration. And if that's the only one you join, it's a bonanza for you. It's a bonanza for you. I promise you that. As you're hanging out in these sites, maybe an hour a day, maybe 30 minutes a day, notice what the hosts are looking for and how the other guests respond. Put your hat in the ring in a conversational, relationship building way. Respond quickly to requests and fill in an application forms thoughtfully, and dot your I's and cross your T's, because if you misspell their name or you do it in a haphazard manner, that might reflect not as well on you as it otherwise could. Some other things you can do is, you're all probably members of Facebook groups, and you can start conversations with the host and see if there might be a way for you to step up as a leadership contributor by filling in a gap that is not their expertise. You can update your social media profiles and mention that you're an awesome podcast guest. You can post to social media that you're seeking podcast guest spots to talk about your expertise. You can even host your own live broadcast from your Facebook group and close the session by letting the viewers know that you're game to share this and similar content for their Facebook groups, mastermind groups, or other audiences that can benefit. If you open doors for each other, the rising tide lifts all the boats. So consider the people that you know already that could benefit from what it is that you have to offer, and think about what you have to offer to them. I do a live show in my Facebook group every week, and my people come every Monday at 1:00 to hear what new tip, suggestion, or inspiration or motivation I have to share. When I'm thinking about how to add value for my community, I'll ask, what subject matter do you want to learn more about? And if it's not something I know a lot about, I'll find an expert who knows something about it. And even if it's a big name, I will summon up the courage to ask a person with a big name to be a guest on my show. And when I interview them, I will go the extra mile to make them look so amazing that when the microphone goes silent, they're going to say to me, "Wow, you're like a mini Oprah. That was a fantastic interview. I loved every minute of our time together. Could I have you as a guest on my show too?" Reciprocation and good karma, it is an amazing, amazing force. So think about what doors you can open for other people and how high you can reach to invite people into your world to serve your people. And you just might find that all kinds of doors are going to open. So what else do? You prioritize. You don't want to be selling a Rolex watch to a migrant farm worker. It's a message to audience mismatch. So if you are looking for shows that are about cancer and caring for your spouse, narrow your focus to those shows, sample the show to make sure it's a show you would be proud to contribute to, find the host on the website, and we'll get into that, and then find a way to make a cordial and of service approach to suggest yourself as someone who has value to add to that show. And so you're probably thinking, how can I pitch? I've anticipated that question. Take a picture of this. This is a pitch I've used many times before to demonstrate to a host that I've listened to the show. I specify who their guest was, why I thought the show was so great. In fact, I stopped and posted a 5-star review on iTunes. And why did I do that? Because hosts want 5-star reviews. They want people to subscribe to their programs. And if you take the extra mile to take a moment to post a specific review, they already know your name. And when they get your pitch a week later, they're going to go, why do I know this name? I know this name because that person wrote a 5-star review. And you're going to remind them because you take a picture of it and put it in your pitch. Thanks for the insights and the kick in the pants to make this big change or take this action. Since your show is all about cancer caregiving, I'd love to be considered as a guest. As an expert in this area, I can talk about boom, boom, and boom, while sharing tales from the trenches of real life that can serve your audience and inspire them to take action. This is especially timely, especially because some timely reason why now we should be talking about this. I've contributed to some big and little name shows, and hosts rave about the value I bring while serving their mission. I'll follow up within a few days to check your interest unless I hear from you first. This is a very easy template that every one of you can customize to your own purposes and try it out and see how well it works. And Marika, to your point about when does the media one sheet come into play? What I do is I'll send this out, and usually it's complete enough that a couple days later somebody responds, because it's very effective. But if when I get a response, well, sometimes I'll say, I'm more than happy to share my media one sheet if this is a fit. Okay, just add that in. I'm more than happy to share my media one sheet or media kit if this is a fit. I'll follow up within a few days and check your interest. I don't send my media one sheet with my first pitch because I think it's too much information, and I think I should wait until they determine that it is a fit before I share that. So you just sort of want to take it in bite-sized pieces. But that's how I do it. And I never attach my media one sheet to anything, because attachments from unfamiliar sources create unrest on the recipient. You probably don't like to open attachments from people you don't know. Is that fair to say? So don't include an attachment. If you want to do anything, embed an image of it within your email, but don't attach. I know I'm going very deep here. Are you guys overwhelmed? Okay. Oh, we got a thumbs up. Thank you, Marika. Okay. So speaking of overwhelmed, one of the most important things that you have to do at the end of a podcast is to be very clear and singular about what next you want the audience to do. So don't do, you can send me an email, you can find me on Facebook, you can find me on Instagram, you can download my special report, you can send me a smoke signal, you can give me a call. 42 different calls to action usually results in 0 actions taken. So what I want you to do is consider the single thing you want people to do, and to keep it simple, put some sizzle in the steak, and make it something that's going to live on indefinitely, just like the show is going to live on indefinitely. So what are some options? It could be download my free gift. It could be schedule a discovery call. It could be join my Facebook group. It could be visit my website. It could be take my quiz. But when you talk about what the quiz is, like, this is a quiz that will help you, like, how good in the sack are you? Take my quiz and you'll get a quick temperature on how well you're doing and what next you can do to improve your score. People like, you have to be able to put some sizzle on the steak. Are you a good mom? Take my quiz. You'll find out. But put enough to it. So coming back to your favorite ways to serve, when the right number of clients say yes to your favorite way to serve, you make money and you get to do more of this thing that you love to do with the clients that you love to work with and fuel the happy economy of your household. So if you really want these outcomes, I love Jack Canfield, and he says, practice the rule of 5. Take 5 inspired actions every day to advance towards your biggest goal. He says that even the biggest tree in the forest will come down if you take 5 swipes of an axe at it every single day. So since visibility is an imperative, it is a requirement. If you could dedicate time daily to advancing your star on the rise, make it a well-formed habit, and that habit will serve your success. You will want to be consistent, persistent. You want to aim high, and you also want to follow up. Practice the fine art of follow-up and invite introductions. So I want to tell you a fun story about the fine art of follow-up. When you go to podcast guest collaboration, there's some little shows and there's some big shows and there's everything in between. And you never know what you're going to get. It's like a box of chocolates. Sometimes it's a lot of little shows and you get your reps in and you build your confidence and your clarity and your conviction. And all of a sudden you realize, I've done enough of these little shows. I'm ready for the big time. And that's when you start getting into your body and you start to feel a little bit anxious and summon up some courage to say, what would it be like if I was actually on a really big show? And then you force yourself to do it. And so I wanted to be on David Newman's The Speaking Show because he was a top 5 podcast in marketing and management. And for me to be on a top 5 podcast in marketing and management would be a real feather in my cap and help my own star to rise. I thought, how am I going to meet this guy? So I'm going to tell you what I did. First off, I followed him on Facebook. I joined one of his Facebook groups so that I could participate and contribute thoughtfully to his commentary. So he would notice me as a thoughtful contributor who was not selling anything, just contributing to the conversation. When I felt like I had shown up enough for him to know my name, I reached out to him and said that I had just written this new book, Bye Bye Boring Bio, and it was for speakers, experts, and authors that wanted to speak up virtually and smile all the way to the bank. And I wanted the opportunity to send it to him as a gift because I thought it could be something we could potentially talk about on a podcast or in some other way. Could he please share with me his mailing address so I could send it his way with a personal handwritten note? He responded and said, go ahead and send it to me. And then I thought, what else can I do? And as it turned out, I was on somebody else's podcast. And when the podcast was over, he says to me, that was great. You did a wonderful job. Who do you want to meet? What can I do for you? And I said to him, well, here's a wild hair idea. Do you know David Newman? He says, yes, I've known him for years. We're actually very good friends. I said, I would really like to meet him and be on his podcast. And he said, I'll make an introduction. I said, okay. And so he made a warm introduction. And then Johnny on the spot, just like I am, I wrote back to him the same day. What a pleasure to be introduced to you. I've been following your work for quite some time. I'm a member of your Facebook group. And if you remember correctly, I actually sent you a copy of my book. I'd love to be on your podcast. Or I'd love to talk to you or whatever. Let's get something on the calendar or something like this. And then nothing happened. Absolutely nothing happened. I heard crickets. I was thinking to myself, did I duff it? Was I over the moon? Did I go over the arc? Did I say something I shouldn't have? Like, you go to that place of self-doubt, right? And I satisfied myself. I didn't duff it. I was lovely. I was gracious. I was enthusiastic. There's nothing wrong with that. So I thought, follow up. How am I going to follow up? So I put in the subject line, if you're not stuck under heavy furniture, give me a call. It's a line from the When Harry Met Sally, you know? And same day, he says, oh my God, I apologize. This got stuck in my spam folder. I got to tell you, I loved your book. Any referral from Dan Janal is a good referral to me. I'm so sorry this has taken so long. How's December 8th for you for the podcast? God.
That's awesome.
So my point is, you got to want it enough to follow up. And I did the interview with him. And then I asked him when the microphone went silent, I said, would you consider or do me the honor of being a guest on my show? I would like you to talk about how to sell high-end offers, something that was definitely in with his wheelhouse. And he said yes. And that's where you go the extra mile. You don't just schlep it together. You do your homework and create such an amazing interview that the guest is gobsmacked. And that's exactly what I did. I interviewed him. I listened to a bunch of his interviews ahead of time. I knew who he was. I knew what he was like. I rose up to meet his energy. He rose up to meet mine. And when the whole thing was over, he actually posted to Facebook and said, I've been interviewed over the last 20 years. And this interview I did with Nancy Juetten is the best by far of any interview I've ever done in my life.
Wow.
And he has these like big name people that follow him.
Wow.
And they started following me and asking to be on my show. And it's like, oh my God. So if you want to be seen, heard, and celebrated on more of the cool shows, see what you can do to ask for the bigger shows, have the courage to follow up to make sure that you get what you want, do your homework, and prepare for magic. Because one good thing leads to another, and that's how the momentum builds, and that's how the snowball effect starts, and that's how it really gets fun. Now, Jennifer, for time, I've been talking a long time. Is it time for me to wrap this up? I can't hear you, Jennifer.
Probably about like 5 more minutes, and then we can take some questions, and then.
Okay. All right. So coming back to this mindset thing, believe and behave as if the most important person is going to call you tomorrow. Get yourself ready with a media one sheet and a bio that positions you as the expert that host would want to talk to about a subject matter that matters to the audience. Be an extraordinary guest and co-collaborator in ways that astound, delight, and surprise. And don't go generic, get specific. Don't say author, speaker, coach, snooze, you lose. Call yourself the remarkably different, disarming, and powerful relationship with money keynote speaker. Wow, that sounds like somebody I want to meet. You know, author, speaker, coach, snooze. I'm an author, speaker, coach. It sounds like bread, eggs, and milk. You know, yeah, I need that to bake a cake, but what I really want is something remarkably different, disarming, and powerful. Put some sizzle in the steak. Don't just be a generic speaker. Be a motivational speaker who inspires young professionals to succeed in the first 2 years of your career, even if the job they have isn't a perfect fit. You know exactly what he talks about. You know why he talks about it. And is it any wonder that he's getting booked at the UW to do their commencement address? Because his topic is very specific and audience focused. Have a topic that people understand enough to know to say, that's my guy. If you want to get more speaking gigs, here's a fun little template you can use to ask decision makers if you can be that person. And it works like a charm. I'm a motivational speaker who inspires this audience to accomplish this big wow. I've read about prior events you've hosted and wonder if this topic can add value. Let's chat briefly. I want to tell you one more story. See, hear, and celebrate the show before you tell someone you want to be on it, and have the courtesy to do the same. yesterday, 2 people said, love your show. Can I be a guest on your podcast? And I'm more than happy to interview you for mine. Those are the kind of requests I don't like to get because number one, I don't have a podcast. I have a YouTube show. And she's just revealed that she's never watched it because she says, I'd love to be a guest on your podcast. But she didn't even tell me what she talks about. And even if it's relevant to something I'm interested in. Doing interview swaps is a nice way to get some practice. But if you're talking to the wrong people, it's a miserable waste of your time. So don't do it. Talk to the right people or don't go. So who wants to get visible and speak up and share? How much do you want it? Because I'm daring you, I am daring you to do it. I want you to decide to get visible. I want you to ask for and apply for those opportunities while always aiming high. I want you to resist the temptation to quit because not everyone will say yes, but the right people will. And that is so exciting. And I want you to execute your plan because if you do nothing, nothing will happen. And if this work you do really does matter, it's a disservice to your mission and to your message and to your methods for you to stay silent on the matter. I want you to want your result enough to make it happen because there's where you're comfortable and there's outside your comfort zone. It's always the good stuff that happens when you get uncomfortable. And I want you to consider waiting to get ready, waiting to lose weight to get on Oprah, waiting until you've got your brand dialed in, waiting until your website is perfect. All that stuff is not important. What is important is the opportunities you're missing to speak up and share your message, deliver your wow the way that you can so you can make your difference and make money now. You do not have to wait for your book to be done to speak up on a podcast. You are the forthcoming author of X, Y, and Z, and you're building an advanced audience for your book even before you have it in your hand. You can speak up now. So I want you to speak up now. I want you to drop out of the Getting Ready to Get Ready Club because people are ready to hear from you now. I want you to be inspired as a result of what I've talked about today to get media ready, media savvy, and on message to welcome the results that are so within your reach. And if you've loved this, there's more for you. You can join my Facebook group. I go live every Monday at 1 o'clock to deliver content similar to what you're hearing here tonight. And if you are excited about what it might be like to work with me, it would be a disservice for me not to mention that the Broadcast Your Brilliance Bootcamp started today for the next 12 weeks. And it is my flagship way to serve. And since we just started today, if you're interested in learning more about it, you can go to my website, of course. But if you feel like there must be some work we're supposed to do and you'd like to broadcast your brilliance with expert support such as what I provide, I promise you, you will book yourself on 4 to 12 shows in the next 12 weeks or something better, and you'll have the power to create those results without hiring an expensive booking agency. And that is an incredibly empowering thing to be able to do in this marketplace where we all have to make the most fiscally responsible choices to make our way in the world. So that is my presentation for you, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you may have.
That was fabulous, Nancy. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Does anybody have any questions for Nancy after that? There was a lot there, so I'm sure you have some questions. Now's the time.
Nancy, I have a quick question. The person that you interviewed, the story that you shared about getting on his podcast, who's a big name, what was his name again?
David Newman.
David Newman. And you interviewed him on your YouTube channel?
I did.
Okay, I want to listen to that interview, especially if he spoke so highly of it. That's really a cool story.
Thank you. I was really honored. I was really honored. And he's a very generous guy. And so thank you. I can, if you reach out to me, my email is nancy@getknowngetpaid.com.
Okay.
And if you want access to that interview, I have a YouTube channel, big surprise. But if you send me an email, I'll make the link available to you so you can listen to it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
I'll ask a question of all of you. Let's see, when we started this thing, 5 people said that they were super serious about podcast guesting and that they think that this could be their golden ticket. Based on what you heard today, are there actions that you want to take in that direction?
Absolutely, yes. And I got some really good nuggets, but I got really strong reminders. I have to get more specific on my topic. And as I have 2 divergent areas of interest, I need to keep those separate. So, we're talking keeping my art business on Instagram and my Legal Shield business on Facebook, and looking toward value, the value add. It's all about the value add.
Excellent.
I have pages and pages of notes.
Oh, good. Well, Judy looks bored to tears. Was this useful to you at all? I can't hear you.
Just typing a question. Only it seems to me that some of the, I know you said that it's, it's free, no cost to you to be on podcasts, but I could swear that some of the local people that I'm aware of will ask you to pay to be on their podcast, because that's how they cover the cost that they pay to whoever is, hosting or offering the podcasting service.
Well, those sound to me like people that have really small podcasts, and I would probably say no thank you to those.
Okay.
I would aim a little bit higher.
Okay.
And one thing I didn't cover, which is really important, I mentioned somewhere during the call about one-night stands and long-term relationships. When I'm on a podcast, I'm so delighted to be there. I show up right on time. I deliver, I bend and sway with the conversation. I try everything I can be to be gracious and lovely. And when the call is over and several weeks later, they send me the link to the show, I go the extra mile when I get the recording of the show, and I share it in my newsletter. I post it on my online press room. I post it to social media, and I think of other ways, put it on my blog so that I can share it out and make sure more people see it. And hosts really appreciate that. And when you do that, they get more listens, they get more subscribers. You've demonstrated that it wasn't just about what you wanted, it was what they wanted too. And that is another extra mile approach to take to make sure that you were the dream guest that they were glad to have crossed paths with. And another thing that I like to do, and I encourage you to do this as well, you all are in a networking group. You all know each other's expertise. You all have a wagon wheel of people that you know, like, and trust that are brilliant at what they do. When the microphone goes silent and there's small talk about what a great job you did and what a fabulous conversation you had, you might just say, just curious, Madam Host, what kinds of experts are you looking for to make the podcast even more amazing? Maybe I can make an introduction that would help you accomplish that. Hosts really appreciate that. And when you do deliver great referrals, that also reflects well on you. And I'll tell you one more story, if I may. I was on the podcast guest collaboration site. I saw this woman identify herself as a host who was looking for people who had business how-to advice that would help entrepreneurs succeed more readily. And I thought, I have the bye boring bio subject matter. I also have my publicity background. I also have the podcast guesting stuff that we've been talking about tonight. So she had a very elaborate form. She said, you fill out the form, and then you also have to agree that you will introduce her to at least one other amazing guest. She won't book you until your 5-star review is posted. She wants you to subscribe. I mean, she had all these things that she insisted upon. And so I did everything that she said, but I went the extra mile. So when it came time to making a referral to one guest, I referred her to David Newman. I referred her to one of my own best clients, and I referred her to someone I admire tremendously. These were like big name people, because I thought if I could refer really cool people to her, then my star would look better. She was so impressed. She says, nobody does this to the level and degree that you do. I want to meet you personally outside of the podcast and see what else you're all about, because you are like a unicorn. This hardly ever happens. But if you can be the person that they talk about like that, I mean, I did a kindness to David Newman. I did a kindness to Steve Sims, and I did a kindness to Meredith Liepelt. And because I did those kindnesses for them, I give first before I give first without asking for anything in return. But these people remember what I did for them. And that means that when they are asked, who do you know who could speak about or contribute in a certain way, I'm on the tip of their tongue, just because good karma has worked to my advantage. So follow up with hosts as they prescribe, but always think about going the extra mile, because it's never lonely out there. It's never lonely at the extra mile. So anyway, are you glad you came tonight?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That was great.
Definitely. This was fantastic.
Who's joining my Facebook group?
I think I'm in your Facebook group.
Which one? Who was
I
that?
think Jennifer, you asked you.
Yes, you're
when
in
we
there.
started talking about
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
good.
And what do you have any tips? So I am in my first year, finishing up my first year of business. So I don't have a lot of the I'm thinking about that media one sheet. I definitely have very clear topics and very specific, and like that part would be no problem for me. But the kind of the praise or the accolades, do you just have any advice for like a newbie in business to, how you kind of talk yourself up as far as being an expert? I have my own story. I mean, and my cat's tail, of course, who makes an
I was
appearance
wondering
every
what
time.
that was. Authenticity has great value. The subject matter that you talk about
Yeah.
is deeply personal and
Mm-hmm.
very riveting. And when you don't have a best-selling book and you haven't been on major or minor media and you haven't made $1 million yet, like, no need to have any shame, blame, or judgment about any of it. Lead with what you have. I'm just sort of guessing, but sometimes your life is rolling along on this nice normal trajectory when you hit a pothole and everything changes in an instant. And a cancer diagnosis can change everything in an instant. And it's what you do with that diagnosis and how you serve and profit or serve and grow that can be your greatest legacy. And so
That was
just
beautiful. I want to use that. That was beautiful.
you can.
You said it perfectly, really.
That's what I do. I am really good at turning, like, I barely know you, but I got a sense of it by when you told me who you were. And that, so lead with what you've got and put your heart in it. Put your heart in it. And that will serve you very well, especially for shows about cancer recovery and cancer survival and, yeah, but put your heart in it and you'll be fine. And then as when I first started out, like, I was a publicist behind really famous people. And when I went to look for my own name on Google, the only thing that came up was that I ran 10K races really slowly. And I thought, shoot, if I'm going to be such an expert, maybe I better take my own advice. And so I started getting on Mom Talk Radio and Blog Talk Radio and some of these little shows that nobody even listens to. And then I started like notches on the bedpost, getting better and better. And then I got on National Public Radio and it was like, wow, this is fun. But it's like in the beginning, it's like my pitch is I've been on major and minor media. That's such a humble way to say, I've done my time in the trenches at the bakery at 6 o'clock in the morning, talking to the local bakers. You know, I've done it.
Yeah.
It's taken me a really long time to create what I've created here. So if you have any kind of sense of humor about it, or you make people wink and grin about it, it's like, yeah, those slow race times, you can still go find them if you dig deep enough. But I'm not apologizing for being a long distance runner, because look at me now. I've been here for 20 years. I'm still here, still waving the flag, still doing my thing. That's tenacity is a beautiful quality. So just authenticity is valuable. So put your heart on it if you don't have all the brass, and don't apologize. That's my advice.
That's perfect. Thank you.
And you know, if sometimes people say, well, I wrote a book and I'm aspiring for it to be a bestseller, and I'm making it happen one book at a time, or I'm happening at 5 book sales at a time. Like, that's a very authentic way to say, my book is new, but I've got big aspirations for it, as opposed to someone who postures so much about their Amazon best-selling book that stayed on the top of the charts for 20 minutes and then fell off into obscurity. I mean, sometimes people overdo their posturing, I think. Be yourself. It's the best thing you got.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice about just the authenticity. Because I mean, I think that of other people too, you know, but like you said, the self-doubt creeps in always.
Believe and behave as if the message you have is worthy of a much bigger audience, regardless of how long you've been in business or what struggles you've endured. The mindset piece, I mean, why do you think it's on my timesheet every day? It says here, this is my timesheet. Every single day I use it. My work deserves a much wider audience. My business is worthy of sales beyond expectations. That is the first thing I read when I sit down at my desk every day. And why do I do that? Because do you know anybody in the planet who has said, I'm only talking to idiots and I really want to talk to super cool people? I mean, it's like, I wish I could hang out with cooler people. If you ever wondered about that, I wish I could hang out with cooler people. So I tell myself every day, my work deserves a much wider audience and my business is worthy of sales beyond expectations. And if I tell myself that every single day, look in the mirror and feel confident about it, and do the very best I can every time I get a chance to speak up, I know that that's going to happen. So don't argue for your limitations, argue for your upside. It's so much more fun.
Nancy, can I ask you a favor? Could you unshare your screen so I can
sure.
People for starts?
Did I do that? I am stopping sharing.
There you go.
There we
Thank
go.
you. I have a specific question, and some people will appreciate it. Some people are going like what she's talking about. I've been giving speeches at Toastmasters for 10 years now. Would it be a good idea to go back through those speeches and start using those to start crafting like Facebook Lives and that kind of thing, and work on those as kind of a base to start working through? Or you know, because many of these relate to my topic.
What is your topic?
Well, as far as Facebook goes, it's going to be legal issues and protecting people. Part of what I focus on is how connection makes a difference in how you treat people and how people are valued in a community. And one way to do that is to have access to your rights on an ongoing basis. And that's,
well, I have another idea for you that might be juicier.
Okay.
How artists can protect the value of their creative work and ensure their legacy. Something like that. A lot of times people are artists and they just want to create and make things beautiful. But if you don't protect your photography, if you don't protect your original work, you leave a lot of money on the table and you have no way to fight back. That would be a little bit more specific.
Okay.
What do you think?
No, that is good. And it's a group that tends to push back as if they don't need it. And so maybe that needs to be part of my value add, is to remind them that they have something of value, and things of value deserve to be protected.
Well, I'm going to put it to you another way. If you, like, I'm going to direct this to Jennifer. Jennifer creates websites, yeah? You create websites for clients that pay you meaningfully for the privilege of having your great work.
Yep.
And if somebody happens upon one of your clients' websites and says, hey, those are nice words, those are nice images, those are nice things, I think I'm just going to take all that from this website and I'm going to claim that as my own. It is, if you are the victim of that kind of piracy, it is so violating. It violates everything. I mean, it's like, it's so wrong on every level. And if you're the victim of it and you can't fight back, you should have the power to fight back. You should have the power to fight back in a takedown request. You know, creative people, it's not just, you know, yeah, I'm a songwriter. Yeah, I write lyrics. Yeah, I create beautiful paintings, but it's your original work. And if you don't protect it, you're leaving big bucks on the table unnecessarily. And forget being a starving artist. Do the right thing by your work, for your legacy, for your family. I would encourage you to get as specific as you can about the problem that you're solving, because the connection thing is a little soft. But you blending the creative thing with the legal thing, that might be juicier. And if you wrote your speeches a really long time ago, chances are you wrote them a really long time ago, and you could probably do better in the present day with something fresh and new and
Okay.
relevant to what's happening in the world right now. That's my 2 cents.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. Cool. Does anybody else have any more questions?
I have some, but I think it wouldn't be as interesting to everybody else as it would be just some direction. Is that
Go spill
permissible,
it.
Nancy?
Spill it. Go ahead. Spill it.
No, well, yeah, I have a blog,
Okay.
and the questions I have are in relation to the blog, and instead of the written word, having the spoken word, and length of time for interviews. I interview a lot. I do a lot of interviews with the people that I include in the blog. I'm doing one right now, in fact. And as you're talking, I'm thinking about how cool would that be to have those people interjected into an interview to discuss what I have just learned and that I want to share, but instead of written visually. And I'm having a hard time figuring out how that would work. And then I'm having a hard time figuring out how to interview in such a way that it keeps it succinct and short and to the point. So it's basically a hosting kinds of skill sets that I need to learn.
Well, I'm going to try to answer that. What is your blog about? Just
events.
Okay. So one idea, I have actually seen this done before. Some hosts, I'm going to give you an example that's a parallel example. Have you ever heard of Chicken Soup for the Soul, the book by Jack Canfield?
Yes.
He has a very specific recipe for his chapters. when people
Mhm.
around the world contributed to his books when he was creating these books, he wanted to know where you are now, the low point, and how you got out of it.
Okay.
Okay. Where you are now, your low point, and how you got out of it. And it needed to be 750 words. And that was the format. And then if you read any of his books, they were all like that. Here I am today, but in a low point, and here I am today. So if you're doing interviews with people, you might have a standard set of interviews. When is your event? What will the audience learn? What's special and different about the speaker that will make this a must-attend session? Are there ways to do business with the speaker beyond into hiring them to speak?
Yeah.
Create a template, and then you could submit that to everybody that wants to be a part of your, embed your logo here, embed your headshot here. So they essentially have to do the work to make the submission, so you have something complete submitted to you to run on your blog. Does that answer the question? I don't think.
Yeah. Yeah, somewhat. Yeah. You're right. I was thinking template kind of a thing, but
a form where
Yeah.
make it easy and systematic for people to make a submission that you could cut, paste, and go with.
Okay.
And,
Yeah.
And if you only allow for, sometimes you, as a speaker person, like, don't give me 300 words for your bio. You only have 50 words, and it needs to be written in the third person. And if it's not presented properly, I'm sending it back. Because you don't want to have to be in a position to have to edit other people's work because they did not follow the directions.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. Oh, it's like just for instance, like there's an event we have here in Gig Harbor. It's at the airport, and it's called Wings to Wheels, and you could get really carried away with all these cool things that are happening, and all the planes are going to be there, and all the car show, and and so there's a time to stop, and there's a time to, and so it can get way out of hand, or you can just keep it really succinct. But it's really just promotion for them, so they get really excited, and it's okay, but there's got to be some tightening and keeping it succinct and to the point, and yet entertaining and exciting. So I'm having a hard time with that.
Well, I guess maybe you can sit with it for a bit and see,
Yeah.
is there a template that you could create that would make it faster and easier for everybody to get what they want?
Uh-huh.
And then maybe you could ask people like a fun fact or a quote, or,
Mm-hmm.
put some personality into it so people look forward to reading it. So it's not just the facts, but there's something memorable about
Oh,
it.
I do that with my blog. It's just that if you're going to do it, visually, like on Facebook or something, I don't want to get over boring there, and keep it, interesting without visual effects. It's just,
Well, ask the people that are doing events to submit professional quality images that will contribute to the more visually appealing blog.
Yeah, that's true.
Now we're kind of getting outside of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
This is
And that's why I can formulate those questions and send them to you if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Nancy at getknowngetpaid.com is my email. I'll type it in the chat.
Okay. I wrote that down. Get known, get paid.
Nancy, your Facebook group is Get Known, Get Paid, or Raise Your Voice?
getknowngetpaid.com/group.
Okay. I'm
That's a
trying to
redirect.
find it here.
I just put it in the chat.
Okay.
And you already captured the bye boring bio for the you got that one, and yeah. Okay. All these are really good.
Awesome.
Bye
Well,
bye.
thank you, Nancy. This was so amazing. I think everybody got so much out of this, and I can't wait to get all the notices from everybody of all the podcasts that they're going to be going on after this, right?
Well,
So-
and the one thing I want to just sort of throw this out there. People say, I actually said this on a call the other day, people get all excited when they hear a call like this about all their possibilities. And then they say, okay, I'm going to make this a priority. And then tomorrow life hits the fan. And because you didn't tell anybody that you're going to get booked on all these shows, nobody's going to hold you accountable to make sure that it happens. And that's one of the best advantages of being part of my Broadcast Your Brilliance boot camp, which is not only you're going to declare your big intention to be seen, heard, and celebrated in this way, but I'm going to hold you accountable to make sure that you do it. And if you thought I gave you good value tonight, I've only given you the tip of the iceberg in terms of what I know about all my ninja strategies and how to make things happen. And I put the link to that program in the chat so you can check it out. It's getknowngetpaid.com/broadcast your brilliance. We started today. We go for 12 weeks. My velvet boot is going to come to your behind to kick your butts into a whole new gear, butts as in excuses. But we are getting seen, heard, celebrated, and ultimately compensated by speaking up in ever greater and better shows and being rock stars every time we take the mic. And if that's interesting to you or people that you know, I hope that you will refer people my way and allow the rising tide to lift all the boats.
Well, thanks a lot, Nancy. Thank you so much. This is great.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, thanks for doing this. This is great. Perfect. And I hope Caitlin already got her ticket for the winery. So she literally got hers while we were in the first 5 minutes of this. So everybody else who's coming, please go to the website and RSVP there by buying your free ticket. It doesn't cost you anything to RSVP for it so that we know how much food to get for the event. Okay. Awesome. Great. Thanks, everybody. Have a really good night. All right. Talk to you soon.